to do this.
Okay.
And then we say things. The first thing we say is whatever negative thing is going on in my life. Even though I have this anger at my dad that just won't go away. And then I follow that with I love, thank, respect, and forgive myself. And then I may say something like an affirmation, a question. Why am I finding it easier to forgive my dad? Okay, and I do that 3 times. Do it 3 times so that I can then reevaluate how I feel. For instance, if I were telling you how to do this, I would say, just write down all of the things you can think of that that still bother you, that give you some emotional push, some emotional, what do I want to say? Anyway,
it disturbs me. Yeah,
disturbs you. Write it down, like I hate my dad, and then put the number down from 0 to 10, with 10 being the worst. Okay, and then do this for that, even though I hate my dad. And then you do it 3 times. You come back and you then think about that and see if you've come down from 10. If you've only come down to 5, then the only change you would make is that even though I have some remaining hate or anger at my dad, I love, thank, respect, and forgive myself. Why am I finding it easier to forgive him? And you keep repeating that until you get it down to 0.
Now, you mentioned affirmation, which is different than affirmation.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit how affirmation actually works with EFT.
Well, we've all heard of affirmations, and probably we've all done them. And sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. And an example is that if I weighed 370 pounds, grossly overweight, and was broke, I could say the affirmation, I weigh 165 pounds and I'm rich. And I could do that all day long, and I'd probably just get angry after a while at saying such a stupid thing because I don't believe it. But if I turned that around and made it a question, such as, even though I'm heavier than is healthy, and I'm broke, why am I making better decisions? Now, my subconscious, it likes questions. It won't throw that out. It'll say, oh, well, I'll think about that. Yeah. And then we've got a new program in our subconscious that's working 24/7. It's working while we sleep.
So one of the questions I want to ask you is the effectiveness of this. I mean, you work with people, and you actually talked about healing your knees or whatever. How effective is this?
Incredibly effective. I had a client call me one time before he was a client, and he said, I hear you teach EFT. And he said, I've been working with 2 different counselors, and they're both using EFT, and I think it's a lot of bunk. And I'm thinking, why did he call me? And then he said, what is your experience with it? And I said, well, I don't keep statistics, but I'd say at least 95% of the people I teach this to, it works really good for them. And he said, well, how about the other 5%? And I said, well, I don't keep statistics on that either, but I would suspect that they're on some kind of medication, a pain medication, tranquilizer, sleeping medicine, or something of that sort. He said, well, I'm on all 3, and I'd like to make an appointment with you for next Wednesday. So I said, okay. So I had a week to think about him coming in, and I thought, what are we going to do? When he gets here, he's already forewarned me that he's on all of these medications. This may not work for him. And it may not work because of the pain medications. They typically just disconnect our mind from our body. They don't cure anything. However, they may allow us to function. And In his case, we were able to overcome that with some of the techniques. So it worked good for him. He's still on his tranquilizers because the small amount of tranquilizer the doctor gave him, when he gets off, it's such a collapse in his system. The doctor said, well, just stay on it the rest of your life. So be careful what you take. work on your inner thoughts.
If someone wants to find out more, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can call me at 770-630-6898, or they can go to the internet at www.eftcenter.com.
Well, thank you again for being here, Mr. Rodenberger. And
well, thank you.
We enjoyed it, and thank you for sharing this information with us.